Welcome to Still with Purpose. This is Amanda and Christy.
Our goal is to dig deep and discuss real, raw subjects in pursuit of greater self-awareness, positive transformation and healing, and to link arms and journey with you to find purpose and passion in life. Hi, welcome back. Today we're talking about the question, what if the version of love you've been giving isn't really love at all, but fear dressed up as kindness? Amanda, what quote do you have for us?
Do it from love, not for love. We're going to take a little deep dive here into people pleasing and enabling. And really, I dove into this one because it's probably been my largest struggle of my healing journey. Helping others, being the person everyone comes to with their drama and their sadness and all that stuff in the past was where I found my value, basically. I wanted to really uncover why people pleasing and enabling will never lead you to real love, connection, or peace. There's a huge difference between loving someone and pleasing them at all costs. Even worse is spending all your time trying to please and love someone and never having it really received or reciprocated. There's a huge difference between serving from a place of love and serving in order to be valued and loved. When I'm serving to be loved, I overextend myself, I overgive, and sometimes over apologize, many times when it isn't even my fault. And one of my biggest dislikes is being blamed for things. That's absolutely a trigger for me personally, due to being in past relationships where I chose people that didn't take personal responsibility for their actions and therefore were blamers on everything. And I just happened to be the person that was blamed for stuff. And it was awful.
Not having it received, but also not getting it back. We're going to go into people pleasing, but I think that's part of people pleasing. You're just trying to fill up someone else's cup so much that you don't realize your own is being emptied, but just kind of ignoring that because you're so focused on somebody else. That can drain the life out.
And we've both probably been in those situations quite a bit because we were both people pleasers.
And it may not even be romantic relationships. It can be friendships. It can be coworkers at work. Just you feel like you're just giving and just not receiving back. I know myself as a people pleaser for a long time, I didn't even recognize anything wrong with that, just because that was natural for me to do.
Well, as a Christian as well, we've been taught to give and give. If you go to a church and offer your free services, you will absolutely be taken and used. And I don't mean used and abused. I mean putting you to work if you're offering your services.
And that's a situation, though, you're saying do it from love, not for love. I think in the church setting, now I'm sure there are certain circumstances where people are serving for the wrong reasons, if it's self-gratifying or positioning yourself, making yourself feel good, whatever it may be. But a lot of times you're probably doing it from love. But when it comes to relationships or friendships, work situations or other, I feel like I need to avoid rifts or avoid hurt feelings on either side. You know what I mean? You just try to make things go smoothly, people to be happy.
Keeping all relationships healthy.
In your eyes. In the people pleaser's eyes, which are fogged glasses.
Well, and let's be clear, every single one of us would be excited to have 10 friends that just cater to all of our needs and wants. Who wouldn't want a bunch of friends like that? So people pleasers are fantastic friends to have around. They say no to nothing. Everyone has manipulative qualities to get what they want. If you're really high on your manipulation in the moment, absolutely you're taking advantage of the people around you that have no boundaries and cannot say no. And that doesn't fill up their love tank either because they're doing it for love. That's not necessarily true. They could be doing it from love and for love. That's up to them to be healthy in why they're giving. But I can guarantee if they have people pleasing and they feel guilt around not doing something, that's for love, not from love.
And they're not always getting love back. After being a people pleaser for so long, you start recognizing you're not necessarily getting love back. And it's human nature to want, like you said, people to jump to make things better for you, human nature says, yes, please, but you don't always show love to the person for doing that afterwards. Thank you very much. Now on to the next thing. And that doesn't feel good to the people pleaser who just sacrificed their own time or energy or whatever it was.
To not be validated for your efforts.
Right.
Talked about last week about validation, and it's just a cesspool basically that you get yourself in because you're just striving to be seen and to belong and to be loved. And like we've said several times before, that void is endless and cavernous, and it's only to be filled with God. Yeah. And he made us like that for a reason. He made us with this void that nothing on earth could fill, so that we will go to him to fill it.
Nothing can make us feel whole like God does.
And at the same time, I think my biggest struggle is I want tangible people. For me, being single, I want my person that believes in me and is cheering me on and gets great satisfaction on mutual reciprocating back and forth love acts of service, words of encouragement. Mm-hmm. And then there's part of me that's a little jaded that wonders if that's even out there, except that I have seen couples where it absolutely is.
Where it's excitement for somebody else's joy.
And we talked a couple episodes ago too about just having that person that believes in your dreams, but doesn't feel like they need to accomplish them for you. That's love to me. You so got this. Mm-hmm. I have a handful of friends that absolutely believe I'm going to get up after the fire and the ashes have settled. They absolutely believe I'm going to get up again. Well, I'm glad I have those people in my life, because there's times that I do not feel that way. I feel like doom and gloom. And my faith level and those friends that help me go, we got this, keep going. And when I was talking about earlier about being in a relationship where they're not personally responsible and they're blaming me for everything that's going bad in their life, for me, I think it's because I want to be seen as a giving, kind person. But really, I'm afraid of what will happen when I stop giving. Then there's loss for me, is what I've seen. I've talked before in the past about how I was manipulated so hardcore around my people pleasing and my desire to be loved. And I was doing things for love that I've been manipulated out of a lot of money before. And then you just go into resentment, man, because there's not really a thank you. When manipulation is involved, there's no thank you on the other side of your help and gifting and time. It's just like, good, I got what I wanted. Next, who else can serve me?
Exactly. And then you feel so just used and betrayed almost, because when you do something out of the goodness of your heart and wanting to please someone else, it actually kind of goes back to our discussion that we had several weeks ago about receiving gifts. You want that recognition of sacrifice and of your generosity. And I feel like the people who manipulate to get what they want don't even think about how valuable that is to someone.
It just comes down to that scream inside our souls of just, I want to be seen and belong and loved.
And even sometimes in those situations, finding, I'll say, ourselves as people pleasers, because I identify as one, hopefully not as much as I used to be, but over apologizing when it's not even something that I should be apologizing for. And then the person that you're people pleasing might just say, well, that's okay, accept the apology. And then you just feel like, I guess that was warranted. It's almost like making yourself believe that you are coming from a disadvantage and you've got this ground to make up when you don't.
Yeah, I'm just so glad I've worked on my people pleasing so much, because when we talk about this, it makes me go, who would want to be that person at all? What are the benefits of that? It just makes me laugh, because that was me solidly doing it for love, not from love.
I notice, I think probably all kids, maybe especially females growing up, tend to say I'm sorry too often. And so when I hear my daughters saying I'm sorry and I don't feel like they should feel the need to say that, I quickly like, why are you saying sorry? You don't need to say sorry.
I have a friend, I think she listens to this podcast, but she, when I first met her, said sorry almost every other word. And I had worked so hard on my people pleasing and not apologizing for things. First of all, half the time, if not more, you're not sorry for actually what you're apologizing for. If you catch yourself and think talking about it, you would probably be like, oh, I actually am not sorry. I'm just saying that because I want you to like me for saying something maybe that was a little off or harsh.
Or I want you to feel comfortable. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, which would then make me feel uncomfortable. So I'm shrinking myself to make you feel more comfortable.
Yes, I'm being blamed in a way by your uncomfortableness. That feeling makes me feel blame. So therefore, I'm going to say sorry to maybe take the pressure off of the situation.
It goes back to the quote. You're in that situation doing it for love. You're doing it to feel love from the other person, but you're not doing it from a loving place and that you're really sorry. I guess you are doing it from a loving place because you don't want that person to feel uncomfortable. But ultimately, you don't want that person to feel uncomfortable. So you don't want them to take it out on you and not like you because of it.
I don't want to be called a bad friend, wife, daughter, mother. And quite frankly, that is one of the worst prisons I can put my soul in, is just that feeling. For me, it's an endless battle to get back to myself and just hold those relationships capable of doing their part as well. Sometimes I tell myself it's kindness and love, but really it is fear of loss. When I do things for love, I am chasing approval, control, and belonging. When I do things from love, I'm truly walking in my gifts of exhortation, encouragement, laughter, and joy, not enabling and figuring out their problem, but holding them fully capable of figuring it out themselves, and me being one of their biggest cheerleaders. That's when I'm coming from love.
Holding them capable of figuring it out themselves. I've been there so many times where I get frustrated because I want to fix things for someone else. Like maybe they get frustrated about a situation and I want to say, not that big of a deal. Here's what we can do. Because the people pleaser in me doesn't want them to feel frustration, which then in turn makes me feel bad. So I don't want all the feelings, but feelings are going to happen no matter what. So I just need to recognize that I'm not in control of that. They're getting frustrated and just let them do it and not take it personally.
Right. And let me try and recall this. I think I heard something around people pleasing is really a control issue of needing the room to be perfect.
That is really good. That's a
And
mic drop because I can totally relate to that.
that one hurts me. I actually hated saying.
Well, we've talked before, and I think on this podcast about how I get paid to find flaws in things, whether it's ad copy or whether it's a program process or a timeline, whatever it is, all around marketing. I get paid to figure out the things that are wrong and to make clients happy, to fix things and make clients happy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
having a room or a situation or a group of people or one person where something is causing frustration or stress or is out of place, I immediately want to make it perfect. And we've talked about the word perfect. In my mind, it needs to be perfect, and that's unattainable. So you're right. It is a control issue. I could totally relate to what you just said.
And my experience back in the day, I needed all my relationships to be good. So if they weren't, I would go have a conversation and take care of it. Instead of holding them completely capable of half of the relationship, do they have angst or irritation that our relationship is changed or different? Or are they okay with it? Well, then I get to make a choice again. Is this relationship fulfilling the needs that I have for a close relationship? What is a friendship to me? What is the description of a friendship? Well, quite frankly, it's different when you're having babies and newly married compared to where I'm at now. As a single woman, it's like, what is a good friendship to me? Well, I might be relying on my friends a lot more than I would if my best friend was in my house and I was married to him. That would be different, but expecting anyone to fill that void is going to be a train wreck. So I shouldn't even be doing it to the friendships I have. And believe me, you'll get the feedback on where your relationship is and if they have the capacity to be that friend to you. And then you got to make a choice again.
Well, and you said it a little bit ago, God created us to where only God can fill that void. So whoever we're seeking to step into that is probably incapable just because it's only God that can.
Not their job.
Right. But it's up to us to recognize that and only seek God's comfort, approval, direction, encouragement. etc.
Like I said, sometimes you want a tangible human. I have a great relationship with God. I spend a lot of time with God, and I still crave the compatibility and the communion with another human.
And I think that that underlines the importance of being in a relationship where God is first. So, two people with God in first place, equally prioritizing.
Two filled up cups that are overflowing into each other.
Exactly. With God at the top.
That is the ultimate goal, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I know we've talked a lot about me in the last several years growing spiritually, rededicating my life to Christ. I had to realize that, or I came to the realization that God was not first place in my life and in my relationships, and had to reorder things. And that's still an ongoing work every day to make sure God takes priority.
Well, and let's be real clear. There's an enemy all around us trying to get us distracted, and there's so much distracting us. It's not even that hard to distract us. So I understand why people get distracted or how they get distracted, but it takes a very solid choosing into this as a daily regime in order to not put people as my void fillers. But it does come down to incredible communication again, because in that relationship, that other person could easily say to me, "Hey, how's your quiet time with God?" Mediocre. And that's pretty much the answer to why I've been acting the way I have this week. That's hands down, that is the answer to why I'm irritable or short rope or negativity or Eeyore personality or doom and gloom or anything like that.
What you said is so important. It's about the communication. Me working to prioritize God. It is me working to talk about God as part of my relationships, to pray. Like you and I pray before we start this podcast every time. We keep God at the center of this. I think it's important to explain that it's an intentional choice for us to discuss this is God's work. We are wanting God to work through us. And just like in romantic relationships, you got to intentionally pray together, talk about how we're prioritizing God, talk about how do you feel God's leading us? How do I feel God's leading us? Let's compare notes. Let's compare thoughts. Let's compare feelings in our hearts. And it's not always easy. So I'm reminding myself how important it is.
Oh man, I don't think we would have too many disagreements if every time you started a conversation that was going to be about a tougher subject, if you stopped and said, "Hey, let's pray about this," so that nothing comes out of our heart through our mouth that we can't take back, so that we don't create more damage. A lot of times when people are praying, they end up telling on themselves anyways, because it's really between them and God, how they're treating themselves and others. So a lot of times they'll be like, "I'm so sorry for my attitude." That's extremely attractive, in my opinion. If you were to have that in a relationship, if we could have it in all relationships, I think it would be insane.
Talking to God openly opens up the communication with your relationships.
It's so vulnerable, and vulnerability is the glue to deep relationships, period, in my opinion. A great example of a person that is thriving is someone that no longer needs you the way they used to. And a lot of times for the people pleaser, that's a total identity crush, and it hurts to not be needed anymore. And we talked a little bit about that. If people are coming to you instead of God or going within themselves for the answers, you are putting yourself in a dangerous position for you and them, mostly for having the wrong advice and answer. And we talked about that before, is that's the last thing I want to do is get in the way of God. And he's told me to get out of the way before. So what are some examples of people pleasing and enabling so we can see where we are at with all of this conversation? I put a couple of examples. One of the ways you are putting others' needs before yours and at the expense of your time and energy. This looks like kindness, but is often self-abandonment.
This reminds me, I'm reading a book right now that's talking about from your childhood, not setting or not recognizing or voicing your own limits. And so then you get to adulthood and you self-abandon. For example, when I was growing up, I was really busy all the time. I was a cheerleader. I did competitive dance. I had social activities. I had homework. Oh, and I had a job. I had a lot going on. And I always remember as a high school student, I felt tired, wasn't always enjoying the things that I was doing, but I felt obligated to do it. And I did enjoy those things, but it's just at some point you become stretched too thin, but you don't even talk about limitations like, hey, I need a break, because expectations are that you just keep going. And so eventually you just feel like you don't have any boundaries. You just continue to people please and live up to the expectation. And so as an adult, just like you're saying, you put others' needs or others' expectations before your own. And so you're spending all this time and energy, and you feel like it's kindness or just the right thing to do. You feel like it's being the best you that you can be. But in reality, you're abandoning yourself in trying to be the best you can be, because you're run down, you're tired, you're irritable, all the things that are not allowing you to become the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And one of the things when I was high in my people pleasing and enabling, I remember someone mentioning the word self-care, and I didn't even know what it meant. I thought it meant nails and getting your hair done. I was actually challenged to go around and ask 10 people what they thought self-care was. And I was so confused on how little I was taking care of myself, how big other people's needs were, because my value was only received through taking care of others and being there for others and making people laugh in their saddest time. That was so depleting.
Well, yeah. I mean, self-care is, and I've come to learn this midway through my life, I'll call it, in the last several years. And I've made a big point to tell my children, when you feel like you need a break. So when you feel like you need, like you're saying, self-care, which is getting enough rest, quiet time for yourself, saying no, not overextending yourself to where you feel pressure that you got to keep going and you got to push yourself, and just understanding your limitations. And it's not that you can't do it, because we can all push past our limits. And I think I've probably lived a lot of my life past my limits. So it can be done, but that doesn't create a joyful life. That doesn't create peace. That's not comfortable. And I've talked about, I've dealt with anxiety. I think it generates anxiety because you always feel like the shoe is going to drop eventually. I can keep doing this, but it's not sustainable. So what's going to happen and when? So I've made a big point to tell my children just recently to tell me if you need a break, if you need to take a day off, if you just need some time, do not feel guilty about that. That is self-care, self-preservation, self-honoring. And I think God wants us to do that. God doesn't want us to feel that stretched and stressed.
We said this a while back, is if you're stressed out, you're probably not in his will, because you've said yes to a bunch of things that actually wasn't what he had for you today.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to be right and complain and be resentful, and everyone uses you, and you get to go into victim, and that serves you in a way too, right? You get attention being a victim too, or a martyr. I've been called a martyr before. That was annoying.
At the end of the day, when you lay your head on your pillow, is feeling like a victim or feeling like a martyr, is that enough joy to make you truly feel joyful? It's not.
No, your love tank is not full.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely depleted and filled up with fake air, basically. You've toiled and strived and tried to be seen, heard, loved, valued by all your acts of service and compliments and time and effort, and then you go home completely depleted. Who filled your love tank today? No one, because everyone is totally cool with receiving your love and attention and gifts.
Oh, well, it just reminded me of something else that I read recently, and people listening in, you may have seen it because it was on social media, but it was about Virginia Woolf writing back in the 30s, I think it was, how women have been trained to be a mirror for men. And I don't mean to offend any men here. This was Virginia Woolf's words, but basically reflecting back larger versions of themselves than they truly were. That was what a woman's purpose was. And to basically inflate men's egos at the expense of themselves. It feels a lot like we're saying here, their own love tank was never filled. They were just giving. And maybe it was words of encouragement or praise when it wasn't exactly warranted, but like always lifting up somebody else and never getting that in return, or never even feeling like they deserved that, which is terrible.
I would say for me personally, that comes from old legalistic Christian values that I took on, was was that I was to beef up my husband with praise and thanksgiving so that he could lead our family well, instead of holding him fully capable of going to God and filling that void, and me just being excited to be married to a fantastic human. Because that's just going to naturally just come out of me, my gratefulness and thankfulness, because he's kind, loving, he has the fruit of the Spirit. But when I'm praising someone that has no fruit, it feels treacherous. It feels like you're living a complete lie and that you have to hold up. My mom has said this for a long time. You can prop up and make a pile of crap into any kind of thing, and it's still crap. So you can keep trying to prop it up and speak that life. Again, it's a control thing, I think, because as a people pleaser and enabler, going back to what was the mic drop, was I'm trying to control my atmosphere so that you can smile and be kind to me. So now I'm going to juice you up with all my words, even though I'm telling you right now, neither one of my husbands believed one of my words because of their self-worth. So it didn't even matter what I said because they actually didn't receive it or believe it. So now I'm depleted and you've been depleted the whole time. So what do we got here?
It goes back to what we were saying earlier. It's got to be two people who God is at the top and they're both getting their cups filled from God and then helping each other. The phrase is used in the Bible and it's used a lot in regards to relationships. Women are helpmates. I personally, in all of my spiritual growth, that has new meaning for me in that I think men and women have different strengths and different weaknesses. I won't go into what I feel women are stronger at versus men, but I think we are helpmates in certain situations where men need it. Men need the strengths that women bring to the table. I think the same is true opposite. So I don't think it's just up to the woman to give praise and encouragement. I think the man has to do that as well. And also, I read something recently too, where it was saying a man is to cherish and protect his wife to the ends of the earth. And a woman is to encourage and respect her husband. But a woman's not going to respect someone who doesn't love and protect. So it's like the two go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. You can't be praising and encouraging somebody who is not showing you love and protection and cherishing you.
You can't even love another person if you don't love yourself.
That's absolutely true. Yes.
So how is that person supposed to even cherish and love you when he can't even stand who he sees in the mirror?
And that goes both ways for both sexes.
Absolutely. Another example of people pleasing and enabling, you have conditional relationships instead of unconditional. You end up searching for ways to give so you can feel valuable and also be seen. Another way is you eventually start getting resentful and exhausted because the relationship is one-sided. It's actually more about control than care. Controlling that you never get rejected, abandoned, or have loss. And guess what? You end up creating exactly what you didn't want to create. And the last one, you're striving to be accepted, but with a mask on. But it is not who you truly are. You're acting how they want you to act just to be accepted instead of finding people that truly honor and love you for you without the mask.
Yeah, that one's huge because when you're doing things for love, you're acting in a way that's not true to yourself because you feel like that's what the other person needs or wants.
It reminds me of the honeymoon stage. If you really think about it, we're just striving to show how awesome and loving we are when internally we really aren't that loving, first of all. We're not that loving of a source without God for sure. But ultimately, the honeymoon phase is we're giving our best efforts at the beginning and then that wears off because it's not attainable for long periods of time. And it's for love. We're doing things for love. I definitely was that way in my first marriage as a young girl. Absolutely. I was doing things hopefully to receive back love. And that was for love. And that was conditional love, not unconditional. If I was so grounded in Christ when I was that young, I would have come from a place of, I just want to love you with God's love. That's how I want to love you.
Something else I've seen recently, this is bringing up all kinds of things I've read or seen. Somebody made the point that for females, There are a lot of hormones going on too, probably when you're starting out a young family that make you want to create an environment that's conducive to starting a family and having children. So I wonder how much mystery and science play into this for females becoming these people pleasers that,
That's so true because at my age, I have grown kids and no desire to procreate. I desire to have intimacy, but I don't desire to make another kid. And you're absolutely right.
don't want the arguing or the confrontation or somebody else to feel bad for whatever reason. You want everything to be happy and loving.
People pleasing and enabling and controlling the room so that you can have quality intimacy later on tonight.
And to make babies and have family. And that's what this was coming from somebody who was now in menopause and said those hormones are long gone and I have no desire to basically put up with crap.
Right. Yeah. No, it's absolutely the feeling of a 50-year-old woman, in my opinion, especially a single one that's thinking, is this worth it? Mm-hmm. It's got to be so quality because I'm not looking for a person to father my children anymore. It's more like, who wants to just be an awesome give back to society because we're walking in our purpose together as a couple?
It's interesting to think about that too. I'm sure you've seen the on social media, the We Do Not Care Club, which is women who are all perimenopause or menopausal age and they don't care anymore. Like funny things. I do not care how long I order my food and pay for it. I waited my turn. I do not care. Or I do not care that I still have on my slippers and curlers in my hair when I go to the store. They do not care anymore. But a lot of people kind of joke about it being, well, that's how you get when you're older. You've just been through so much life that you just don't care anymore about what people think. But I think what you're saying is true. These women at this age or even men at this age are no longer looking for somebody to be a father to children and start a family with. Maybe that's why the cares have gone away.
Or they've stopped enabling and people pleasing, and now they just want to come at the world in a really clean, healthy space. And hopefully, they've done the healing from all the damage that they've accrued in 50 years. And now they just want to come from a joyful place. And it's like, hey, if you want to fit into my joy filled life and also do hard things together, be there for each other through the hard things because your body's starting to deteriorate and all this stuff. Awesome. Let's do that.
Maybe it's all those things together, just maturing spiritually, emotionally, emotional IQ, because you've been through it and you've come out the other side and growing, all of the things.
And when you're 20, you're right. That is not what you're looking for.
No.
You have no clue who you are, even. So basically, love is not something you get by performing. It is something that comes naturally when you just be instead of do. This will be a totally eye-opening shift for you when you just love and are loving. You will also start realizing where you have accepted breadcrumbs in relationships from those you have enabled and people pleased. Now the breadcrumbs aren't cutting it. Now you want the meat of the relationship. Let's create something way deeper than what we had because now I'm clear I deserve and desire more than that. Be very clear this could change up quite a few relationship dynamics and most likely will create loss. And coming from a place of your authentic self and maskless is a way more powerful place to come from.
It was in one of our earlier episodes, you mentioned when the mask comes off, there is potential loss because you've got to have two people who still want to choose into the relationship and still love each other, because that could be quite shocking if a people pleaser, and I think I was most of my life, people pleaser, swept things under the rug, didn't want to address too many things that would cause confrontation. So to stop doing that almost very suddenly can cause a lot of disruption.
It's jarring. Absolutely.
If anyone's listening and feeling like they're coming to the place where they need to stop the people pleasing, just be aware. It may not be the easiest thing you've ever done for many reasons.
And you also create a lot of time for yourself.
That's true too.
Which, going to another mic drop, is what we don't want to do, because when we have a ton of time, we actually have to look at ourselves and what's not working.
Right. But we do want to do it because we want to do that. We want to look at ourselves.
We want it, but we don't want to give it to me. me? I know I don't want that.
It's scary, but it's worth it.
Super scary. It's totally worth it because when you die with integrity, the most integrity that you could possibly have for yourself and your calling, that's a well-used life instead of exhausted, didn't do any of your dreams, people pleased and gave of yourself over and over and over, and then completely depleted life just trips over the line. So, of course, always an amazing conversation.
Yes.
I think we always have our own ahas during these podcast recordings, and we hope you did too. Do you want to tell them the reflection questions?
Yep. So this week, think about these questions, maybe spend some time journaling on them. Number 1, where have I been calling fear love in my relationships, and what would change if I stopped? Also, what does loving others from overflow, not obligation, look like for me right now? And lastly, what relationships or patterns might I lose if I stop people pleasing, and what freedom might I gain?
Please come on to the Facebook page and tell us what your ahas for this one was. I would love to hear.
Yeah. And we will too. That last one for sure. You don't have to be so clear that you might offend someone, but just in general terms, when you give up the people pleasing or take off the mask, there's going to be some loss and some gain and difficulty, but yet very rewarding at the same time.
This might be the first time people have even heard of this idea, because I thought people pleasing was the right thing to do. I want to be really clear on that. I feel like I was taught that was what I should do in life.
Me too. I don't think it was ever told clearly, you need to be a people pleaser, but there are expectations that you strive to meet throughout your childhood and as you're growing into an adult. And, we're all rewarded for meeting expectations.
We get validation.
Yeah. And so you just feel like, well, that's the standard I got to keep hitting or go beyond.
So give yourself a break on these podcast episodes. We are very clear that these subjects are tougher to dig into, and we hope that you take them on. I think there's some true freedom in some of it.
Totally agree. Thank you, everyone.
See you next week. Thanks for joining us today. We know your time is valuable, and we hope you have a phenomenal week.
Until our next episode, find more content and social links at stillwithpurpose.com.